"You are in my nest," she said, her voice a low hum that vibrated through the salvaged metal of the bunk. The light inside her shifted, from a steady azure glow beneath her translucent skin to a pulsing emerald at her core, a visual language Jax didn't understand but felt acutely. She was seated on his pillow, where his head was supposed to go after 12 hours of crawling through ventilation shafts, smelling only dust and stale air. Jax froze in the doorway of the tiny habitat module he'd painstakingly claimed on the derelict station. No, this is my module, my bunk, my pillow." He gestured vaguely with the multi-tool still clutched in his grimy hand. He was tall, stringy, with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and eyes that had seen too much empty space. He wasn't used to finding anyone, let alone this on his turf. She wasn't human, not even close. Her form was lithe, fluid, all smooth lines and hidden articulation points, giving an impression of contained power. The internal light was the most striking thing, illuminating faint, complex patterns that seemed to shift and rearrange with her moods. She didn't move, just tilted her head. The emerald pulse slowed, stabilizing into a warmer gold that spread outwards like ripples in water. I rested here. I placed myself upon the soft elevation. The space is now marked. It holds my rest signature. It is a nest. Her eyes, large and dark, were fixed on him, conveying intensity that made the air feel thick. Rest signature? Nest? Look, lady, this is Sector 37, Habitat Unit 9 Beta. I log it with the station's auto-claim beacon 3 cycles ago. It's mine. You've got whatever your species uses. Backwards. He took a step closer, wary. She wasn't threatening, not overtly, but the sheer alienness of her presence, coupled with her bizarre declaration, set his teeth on edge. His only goal was to find enough scrap to fill his small cargo hold and get off this decaying hulk before it shed another crucial piece of life support. He didn't have time for cultural misunderstandings, especially not ones involving his damn pillow. She slid off the bunk with unnerving grace, landing silently on the metal floor. She was shorter than him, but there was a grounded solidity to her posture. Her internal lights flared briefly, a vibrant amethyst this time, before settling back to the warm gold. It felt like a question, or maybe curiosity. She glided past him, the air around her carrying a faint, sweet, metallic scent, unfamiliar and strangely compelling. It prickled the back of his throat. As she passed, she reached out her hand, slender, jointed differently than his, tips glowing faintly, brushed his arm. Not a touch, more like a deliberate drag of air, barely displacing the worn fabric of his flight suit. His skin registered the faint pressure, the alien temperature difference, the strange resonance in his bones. He flinched back instinctively. "Hey, watch it." She stopped at the module's entrance, turning back to face him. The gold light solidified, becoming steady, almost like a challenge. "You occupy the marked space. You imprinted your own rest signature upon mine. This is not backwards, human. This is layered." She paused, her head tilting again as if processing new data. "You are claimed now. By the nest. By me." Jack stared at her, dumbfounded. Claimed? By her? Because she sat on his pillow, and he happened to be the owner of the pillow? "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard," he muttered, running a hand through his sweat-soaked hair. He wanted to laugh, but the sheer conviction in her posture, the unwavering intensity of her gaze, stifled it. There was nothing remotely humorous in her expression, or the steady, possessive warmth emanating from her core. "Look, I don't know your rules, but on my ship in my space, rules are simple. You don't touch what's mine, and you don't make weird claims based on upholstery." He wanted her gone. Now, he felt a prickling sensation on the arm where she touched him, a phantom warmth spreading beneath his skin. She didn't seem offended by his dismissal, only intrigued. The gold light brightened slightly. "Your ship rules. This is station space. My rules. It is a new concept. Nest layering. Human rest signature over mine." She took a step back into the corridor, but didn't leave. Her eyes, large and dark, remained fixed on his, cataloging every reaction. "I am Lyra. Jax." He didn't offer his name, It just escaped. Damn it. Why was he even engaging? Lyra, look. It was a misunderstanding. You needed a place to sit. You sat. I need to sleep. Can you find your own nested pillow? He heard the edge in his voice. He was exhausted, on edge from navigating unstable corridors and dodging collapsing debris. The last thing he needed was an alien with bizarre property claims. Lyra studied him, her internal light shifting again. Faster this time, a flickering mosaic of blues and greens it felt. Analytical. Your energy signature is depleted. Your bioluminescence is low. You require restate. She stated it like a fact, devoid of pity. Then her gaze dropped to his worn boots, his ripped suit, the grime on his face. The light pattern stabilized into a soft, resonant violet. It felt sympathetic? No, not sympathetic. Something else. Something that saw the weariness and noted it as a data point. The claimed nest is the most secure for healing. It's not claimed. It's my bunk. He ran a hand over the threadbare blanket, covering the thin mattress. This was absurd. Listen, I appreciate whatever this is, but I need my space. Alone. She stepped back further, melting slightly into the shadows of the corridor. Though the violet glow remained visible, a constant, silent presence. The nest is marked. The layering occurred. I will observe the effect of layered rest signatures on the claimed subject. Observe? You're going to watch me sleep? Jax felt a cold knot form in his stomach. This was getting weirder by the minute. No, absolutely not. Get lost. Lyra didn't reply. Only the violet light pulsed once, slow and deliberate, before she turned and flowed silently down the corridor, her unique form blending with the shadows, leaving only the faint, metallic scent lingering in the air. Jack stood in his doorway, heart pounding, half in disbelief, half in a primal warning state. He was alone again in his small module, but the air felt different. It held the ghost of her scent, the echo of her strange words, and the undeniable sense that he was no longer entirely alone in his space or in his thoughts. He looked at his pillow, the worn fabric suddenly seeming alien, marked by a presence he didn't understand and couldn't dismiss. The phantom warmth on his arm remained a persistent, unsettling reminder. He slammed the door shut, the sound echoing hollowly in the silent station. Leaning against the cold metal, he closed his eyes, trying to shake off the lingering confusion and the faint, unsettling warmth on his arm. Lyra, claimed, nest layering. His mind spun with the absurdity of it all. He was here to scrape together a living, not acquire an alien shadow with bizarre cultural habits. He needed to sleep, recharge, figure out his next move. But every instinct screamed that his carefully constructed solitude had just been breached in a way he couldn't comprehend, and the phantom touch on his arm felt less like a brush and more like a brand. He pushed off the door and walked to the bunk, eyeing the pillow with suspicion. Could alien biology actually leave a signature? He scoffed, but a tiny, irrational part of him hesitated before lying down. He slept fitfully, dreaming of glowing lights and unfamiliar scents, the warmth on his arm a constant, unsettling presence even in sleep. He woke abruptly, eyes snapping open in the dim light of the module. The faint metallic scent was stronger now. His breath hitched. He was not alone. Lyra was sitting cross-legged on the floor in the corner, a silent, glowing presence. Her light was a soft, pulsing white now, steady and calm. She wasn't looking at him. Her gaze directed at a spot on the wall, but her stillness was intensely focused, like a predator observing prey or a scientist monitoring an experiment. Jax bolted upright on the bunk. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed, scrambling for the salvaged energy pistol he kept under the mattress. Lyra turned her head slowly towards him. Her eyes, large and dark, seemed to absorb the minimal light in the room. The white glow inside her didn't change, remained calm and observing, monitoring the layered nest effect. She stated plainly, as if she were discussing atmosphere pressure. "Monitoring? You think you can just break into my module and monitor me?" His hand closed around the cool, familiar grip of the pistol. The safety was still on, but just holding it made him feel marginally more in control. "The nest is claimed. You are the subject of the layering. I am the claiming entity. This follows the established pattern. Her voice was level, devoid of emotion he could readily identify. It was frustratingly logical, based on rules that made zero sense to him. There is no established pattern. Jax lowered the pistol slightly, unsure if he should point it at her. She wasn't acting hostile, just bizarrely possessive and oblivious to personal space. This is my private space. You can't be here. The white light pulsed softly. Observation is part of the claiming process, ensuring the stability of the layered bond. Bond? There's no bond. Jax felt a surge of exasperation. He was talking to a wall of alien logic. You sat on my pillow. That doesn't create a bond. Lyra shifted slightly, her form flowing. The white light intensified briefly, then settled back down. In my culture, shared rest space, particularly nesting material, signifies a claiming. Your presence layered upon my initial claim indicates either contest or acceptance of the bond. Acceptance of bond? I was asleep. I just wanted to sleep. He threw his hands up in frustration. It was an accident, a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding does not negate the layering event, she replied calmly. The signatures have mingled. The bond is established. Her focus seemed to sharpen on him. Your bioluminescence is still low, but your energy signature is less erratic. Layered rest state shows preliminary positive effect. My bioluminescence? Jax blinked. I don't have bioluminescence. I'm human. Lyra's head tilted again, the white light inside her flickering with what looked like genuine surprise. A pale yellow bloom spread across her chest. Humans possess no internal light, no energy resonance visible to the eye. No, we're flesh and blood, no glowy bits. This was almost funny in its absurdity. If he wasn't so freaked out. The yellow light pulsed, shifting to a mosaic of rapidly changing colors. Greens, blues, reds, purples. It was mesmerizing, like watching a tiny internal nebula. Flesh and blood only? How do you signal health? Emotion? Intent? How do you resonate with potential mates? This is primitive. Jax felt a flush of heat rise up his neck. Mate? Her casual mention of it, linked to a supposed primitive nature, was jarringly intimate and strangely insulting at the same time. We use words, body language, stuff you probably don't get. Words are imprecise. The internal nebula stilled, resolving into a deep, steady blue. It felt thoughtful. Body language varies widely. Resonance is universal. She paused, her dark eyes studying him, and the blue light pulsed slowly. Your current resonance is guarded, prickly, with an undercurrent of fear. Jax flinched. Fear? He wasn't afraid, just annoyed, and maybe a little unnerved. Okay, a lot unnerved. I'm not afraid. I'm just not used to aliens breaking into my place and telling me I'm claimed because they sat on my pillow. The place was not broken. The door access code was fluid. It shifted for me. She stated it with simple finality. The pillow was occupied. Layering occurred. The claim is valid. You are a layered nestmate. He groaned and slumped back onto the bunk, running his hands over his face. A layered nestmate. He was officially losing his mind. Okay, he said, trying to sound reasonable. Let's say, for a second, I believe any of this. What exactly does being a layered nestmate entail? Besides you watching me sleep? Lyra seemed to consider this. The blue light within her deepening. Proximity. Shared resources. Mutual protection. Resonance alignment. She ticked off points on her slender fingers. Observing your sleep patterns was to assess resonance alignment during deepest rest state. Initial readings are promising. Promising? Jax stared at her. Promising for what? His mind went immediately and disturbingly to the potential mate's comment. Wait a minute. Are you saying this is about bonding? Like, permanently? The blue light pulsed, then bled into a soft, warm pink that spread outwards from her core, bathing her form in a gentle, inviting radiance. It felt welcoming, soft, a stark contrast to the cool blue logic she'd just displayed. Bonding is a natural progression of a successful layering. It is resonance made physical. Jack swallowed hard. Resonance made physical. The phrase conjured unsettling, compelling images, and the pink light. It was intensely distracting, a visual warmth that seemed to bypass his brain and settle directly in his gut. Look, I'm just a scavenger. I pick through garbage heaps in space. I don't bond with anyone. My life is solitary, by choice. Lyra didn't challenge his words. Only the soft pink light remained steady, a silent question. Solitary is acceptable before layering. After layering, solitary becomes suboptimal, unsustainable. He didn't know what to say to that. He was stranded in a conversation that felt simultaneously like an anthropological study and a surreal mating ritual. He needed coffee and maybe something stronger. He swung his legs off the bunk, standing up. Okay, this is a lot. I need to process this alone. Can you please unobserve me for a bit? Lyra remained seated, the pink light still radiating from her. Her dark eyes watched him. The claimed subject requires space for assimilation. The pink light shifted, flickering with hints of uncertainty, then resolved back into a calm, steady glow. I will remove my physical presence from this module, but the nest remains marked. The claim remains valid. The observation continues from exterior vectors. Exterior vectors? Jax felt a new wave of unease. You're not going to put cameras in here, are you? Lyra's form rippled slightly, a visual equivalent of a shrug. The pink light pulsed, then faded, replaced by the earlier soft white. She rose to her feet with that same flowing motion. Observation does not require instrumentation. Human Jax. Only presence. She turned and glided toward the door. As she reached it, she paused, her body momentarily silhouetted against the dim corridor light. Her internal light flared one last time, a brilliant, pulsating wave of vibrant orange and gold that swept across her form like a burning sun, intense and breathtaking. Then it vanished, leaving her form shadowed and dark, only a faint white outline remaining. She slipped out the door as silently as she'd entered, leaving him alone again, but with the strong, undeniable feeling that he was not unwatched. The metallic scent lingered, stronger than before, filling the small module with her strange, alien presence. He stood there for a long moment, listening to the silence, feeling the phantom warmth on his arm, and wondering how he was ever going to explain to anyone that his pillow had apparently gotten him into a deep space alien marriage. He ran a hand over his face again, tried to erase the image of that blazing orange and gold light. It had been terrifying and beautiful, and it had left a resonance in his chest that had nothing to do with fear. Days blurred into a strange routine. Jax would leave the module to scavenge, always with the awareness that Lyra was near. He'd catch glimpses of her in the distance, a flash of internal light around a corner, the briefest shimmer of her form moving through the shadows. She never approached him when he was working, but the sense of being observed was constant. When he returned to his module, she would be there, sometimes waiting just outside, sometimes already inside, always silent, always watching. The observational periods became less confrontational, settling into a bizarre shared existence. He'd eat his nutrient paste, clean his tools, run diagnostics on a ship parked in the station's defunct hangar bay, and she would simply be present. Her internal light would shift and change, reflecting states he couldn't read but were undeniably there. Calm white, thoughtful blue, pulsing green when he was repairing something complex. You lack efficient signal transmission, she said one cycle, watching him wrestle with a tangled mess of wiring. Her light was a steady, focused emerald. Your frustration radiates, but does not communicate the specific impedance. Jack sighed, wiping sweat from his brow. I don't signal impedance. Lyra, I just swear a lot. Her head tilted, the emerald light flickering with what seemed like confusion. Swearing. An inefficient and biologically taxing method of expressing technical difficulty. Yeah, well, it works for me. He managed to untangle a crucial wire. Besides, I don't exactly have anyone to signal to out here. The emerald light pulsed slowly, then a warm golden hue bloomed at her core. It felt like Acknowledgement? You have a nestmate. Nestmates share all, including impedance levels. I keep telling you, we're not nestmates. He snapped, instantly regretting the sharpness. He hadn't meant to raise his voice. The gold light remained, but a faint tremor ran through her form, a subtle visual distortion. It registered as pain. He instantly felt like an ass. Look, I'm sorry, he said, softening his tone. I'm just not built for sharing, or claiming, or whatever this is. She was silent for a long moment, the gold light steady but subdued. My designation for you is nestmate Jax, she said finally, her voice quiet. The layering occurred. It is a state of being. He didn't argue. He was learning that arguing with Lyra about the fundamental reality of their situation was pointless. She saw things through the lens of her own species' rituals and biology, a reality so different from his that translation felt impossible. He finished the wiring repair, testing the circuit. Power flowed smoothly. He felt a small flicker of satisfaction. There, fixed. Lyra's internal light flared, a sudden, intense burst of deep violet and shimmering silver. It was stunning, breathtaking, and it felt like approval? Celebration? He'd never seen that pattern before. It made the hairs on his arms stand up. Efficiency achieved, she stated, the light slowly subsiding back to a soft gold. Resonance stabilizes with completion. He packed up his tools, acutely aware of her gaze, the way her light seemed to track his movements. Yeah, well, stability is good. He walked over to the bunk, intending to collapse. He hesitated for a fraction of a second before sitting down, a residual awkwardness about the nest concept still lingering. He sat, deliberately avoiding the spot where she had first been. Lyra watched him, the gold light unwavering. You avoid the point of layering, she observed. The commingling of signatures in the primary rest space. Jax groaned. Can we not do this? Can we just exist without talking about nesting in signatures? Existence is predicated on fundamental truths, she replied, her tone gentle but firm. The truth of the layering, the truth of the claim, the truth of your presence being now entangled with mine. As she spoke, the gold light began to pulse, slowly, rhythmically. It wasn't just light. It felt like a low hum vibrating in the air, a sensory echo that resonated deep in his chest, aligning strangely with his own heartbeat. It was unnerving, intimate, and utterly captivating. He couldn't look away from the pulsing gold, feeling a strange pull, a drowsy warmth spreading through him. What are you doing? He managed, his voice thick. Aligning resonance, she said softly, her eyes holding his. The pulsing intensified, the golden light growing brighter, the hum becoming more pronounced. It felt like she was reaching out to him not with touch or words, but with pure energy, pure presence. His own energy felt drawn towards hers, like iron filings to a magnet. His mind grew quiet, the usual anxieties and frustrations receding, replaced by a focused awareness of only her, only the light, only the resonant hum. He felt himself leaning towards her, involuntarily drawn into the field of her light. He stopped himself just inches from her, breathing heavily. The air around her was warm, carrying that sweet metallic scent that now felt less alien and more intoxicating. Stop it, he whispered, though his voice lacked conviction. I don't understand this. I don't want to understand this. The pulsing gold light softened, becoming a steady, warm glow. The hum subsided slightly, but the connection remained, a fragile thread stretching between them. Lyra's dark eyes held his, and for the first time he saw something he could almost read, a deep, quiet curiosity, a patient waiting, and perhaps a hint of something that mirrored the unfamiliar pull in his own chest. Understanding will come with shared resonance, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The layering is the beginning, not the end. She didn't move, didn't break the intense visual connection, and the silence in the module stretched, filled only by their breathing and the subtle, continued hum of her presence. The simple act of sitting near her felt like a profound crossing of a threshold, leaving him exposed and vulnerable in a way he hadn't anticipated. The external threat arrived silently. Jax was deep in the bowels of the station, attempting to access a locked cargo bay reported to contain pre-collapse system components. Lyra, as usual, was a silent shadow, observing from a safe distance. Suddenly, her internal light flared, not with the usual soft colors, but sharp, rapid staccato of crimson. It was a jolt, immediate and alarming. Jax instinctively ducked behind a cluster of corroded pipes. "What is it?" he hissed, straining his ears. He heard nothing but the ambient groan of the ancient station. Lyra flowed toward him, her form shimmering with the frantic red pulse. "Intrusion," she stated, her voice tight. "Unfamiliar energy signatures. Aggressive resonance." Aggressive resonance translated easily enough. Danger. Jax drew his pistol. "How many?" "Multiple. Spreading. They move with predatory intent." The red light pulsed faster, a frantic visual alarm. Scrappers. This station was supposedly off the main routes, but good tech was worth the risk for some. Lyra hesitated, her light pattern momentarily chaotic before settling into a cold, hard white, edged with red. Not scavengers. Organized. Directed. Great. Slavers or corporate cleanup crew, Jax muttered. Either way, bad news. He had a price on his head in several systems. He looked at Lyra. Her species wasn't common in this sector, but some were highly prized commodities. Was she in exile? Or worse, escaped property? Do they know you're here? Her white light flickered. Unknown. Their resonance does not indicate awareness of my presence. Yet, but their search patterns are systemic. They had to move. Now. Okay, we need to get to my ship. Hangar Bay 4 Alpha. The direct route is compromised, Lyra said, her light flashing red again. They have sealed primary access points. Figures. Jax swore under his breath. Secondary routes then. Know any? Lyra was silent for a moment, her light swirling in complex patterns, processing information. There are maintenance conduits. Narrow. Unstable. Unstable is better than caught, Jax said grimly. Lead the way. Lyra didn't hesitate. Her form seemed to compact slightly, becoming even more fluid. She moved with speed and purpose, her red-tinged white light a guide in the gloom. Jax followed, keeping his pistol ready, straining to hear anything over their own movements and the station's groans. The conduits were indeed narrow, forcing them to squeeze through tight spaces, often in complete darkness save for Lyra's light. The air was thick with dust and decay. At one point, the floor of the conduit gave way beneath them, sending them tumbling a short distance into a lower level. Jax landed hard, the air knocked from his lungs. He gasped, scrambling up, his ribs aching. You are damaged, Lyra stated, flowing back to her feet with impossible ease. Her light was a calm blue now, tinged with worry. Your resonance is disrupted. Pain signal is high. Just bruised. Jax wheezed, pushing himself up against a corroded wall. He felt a sharp pain in his side. Keep moving. She didn't argue, but stayed closer to him now, her light a comforting beacon in the darkness. The conduit narrowed further, forcing them to crawl on their bellies. Lyra went first, her body a liquid stream of glowing blue. Jax followed, the confined space, the darkness, the pain in his side, all pressing on him. He felt a moment of claustrophobic panic. Easy, human Jax. Lyra's voice was low, a soothing hum that resonated to the metal floor. Her blue light intensified slightly. Breathe. The constriction is temporary. Expansion follows. Her calm presence, her simple words, the steady blue glow. It cut through his panic. He focused on her light, on the rhythmic flow of her movement ahead of him. He breathed, deep and shaky, and forced himself to keep crawling. They emerged eventually into a slightly larger access tunnel. Jax pulled himself out, exhausted and hurting. He leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. They are close, Lyra said, her light flashing crimson again, scanning the sector. Jax pushed off the wall. Pain flared, but he ignored it. Which way to the hangar? Lyra pointed down the tunnel. That way. But there is interference. Their scanning is strong here. Your signal is weak. You will be exposed. His signal? His human presence? Of course. Whatever tech these guys used, Lyra's species had ways of sensing them that he didn't. He was vulnerable, exposed flesh and blood. Lyra, with her shifting light and strange resonance, could potentially evade detection. He was a liability. He looked at her, saw the red warning light flashing in her core, saw the intense focus in her dark eyes. "Go," he said, pushing past her. "Get to my ship. It's a Stardust Drifter. Bay 4 Alpha. Get it powered up." Lyra didn't move. Her form seemed to solidify, her blue light radiating determination. "No, the layering requires mutual protection. I do not leave the claimed subject vulnerable. You're not leaving me. You're going to get help. You're faster. You can hide better. I'll only slow you down." He was trying to push her away, trying to make her see reason, try and protect her by getting her out of here. The blue light deepened, became almost indigo, radiating immense stubbornness. "Negative. Protection is shared. You are damaged. You require covering. I will remain." "Damn it, Lyra. This isn't a game. These guys are dangerous." "So am I," she said, and for the first time, Jax heard a hard edge in her voice, saw a flicker of something ancient and formidable in her dark eyes. The indigo light pulsed once, sharp and powerful, sending a ripple of energy through the air that he could almost taste. The claimed subject is guarded. There was no arguing with her. Not now. Not about this. The scanners were getting closer. He could hear a faint, high-pitched whine. Okay. Stay close. Stay quiet. No glowing unless absolutely necessary." Her indigo light softened slightly, a silent acknowledgement. She melted back into the shadows next to him, her form pressed close to his, sharing the limited cover. Her metallic scent filled his nostrils, grounding him. He could feel the subtle vibration of her presence, the low hum beneath the frantic pounding of his own heart. He raised his pistol, listening, waiting. The pain in his side a dull throb compared to the sharp awareness of the danger approaching and the bewildering, unexpected presence of the alien woman guarding his back. The search team swept past their hiding place, a group of heavily armed humans in dark, reinforced suits, their footsteps echoing on the metal floor. Jax held his breath, Lyra a still, silent shape pressed against him, her light dimmed to the barest, almost invisible flicker. They were close enough that he could hear their calm chatter, clipped words about section sweeps and energy signatures. One of them paused near their hiding spot, his head turning slowly, scanner sweeping the area. Jax braced himself, pistol tight in his hand. He could feel Lyra's presence intensify beside him, a subtle shift in the air pressure, a tightening of her form. He expected a burst of light, a fight, an explosion. Instead, he felt a change in the resonant hum Lyra was emitting. It shifted frequency, becoming lower, almost vibrating the floor plates. It felt, dull, like decaying metal, like the station itself. The searcher paused, his scanner beeping faintly, then shrugged and moved on. They were fooled. Lyra had somehow masked their presence, somehow made them blend into the background resonance of the derelict station. Jax let out a shaky breath as the footsteps faded. "How did you do that?" he whispered, turning to her. Lyra's light slowly returned, a soft, steady green, radiating exhaustion, resonance dampening, matching ambient decay signature, taxing. Her form swayed slightly. "You used up a lot of energy," Jax realized. He reached out instinctively, steadying her with a hand on her arm. Her skin felt cool, smooth beneath the worn fabric of his suit. The touch was electric, sending a jolt through him that had nothing to do with the adrenaline of their escape. The metallic sense surrounding her intensified slightly. Lyra looked at him, her dark eyes wide, her green light pulsing with fatigue and something else. Surprise at his touch? "The layered subject requires support," she murmured, leaning slightly into his hand. "You're the one who needs support," Jack said, concern overriding the awkwardness of the moment. His hand lingered on her arm, feeling the subtle vibrations beneath the surface. "Come on. Hangar Bay isn't far now." They moved faster, the close call spurring them on, but Lyra was clearly weakened. Her light flickered, and she stumbled occasionally. Jax kept a hand on her back now, guiding her, providing a steady anchor. The simple act of touching her, of feeling her lean on him, was a sudden, intense intimacy he hadn't anticipated. It felt profoundly different from the claim nest concept, rooted not in strange rituals but in shared danger and mutual vulnerability. They reached the hangar bay. His ship, the Stardust Drifter, sat in its dusty berth, a familiar, comforting sight. "All right," Jack said, pulling her toward the boarding ramp. "Can you get the door open?" Lyra nodded, gathering her strength. Her light flared briefly, a focus beam of pure white directed at the ship's access panel. There was a soft click, and the ramp hissed open. They hurried inside, the airlock cycling with a reassuring thud. They were safe, for now. Jax leaned against the inner door, breathing hard. The pain in his side was sharper now. He sank to the floor, clutching his ribs. Lyra was already moving toward the cockpit, her green light steadying as she accessed the ship's power core. "Powering primary systems," she reported, her voice clearer. "Initiating launch sequence." "Wait, hold on," Jack said, wincing. "We can't just launch. We need to see if they block the hangar door." Lyra paused, turning back to him. Her green light was steady now, radiating quiet competence. Scanning exterior access. Force field detected on primary hangar door. "Damn it!" Jack slammed a hand on the floor. "We're trapped." He looked around the small cargo hold. It was cluttered with a scavenged junk, damaged tech, spare parts, sealed containers of unknown contents. Not exactly a fortress. Lyra flowed back to him, kneeling beside him. Her green light softened, tinged with gold. "Your pain signal is increasing. The damage requires attention." "It's just bruised ribs," he grumbled. "I'll live." "Humans are resilient," she acknowledged, "but inefficiently so. Self-repair is slow, without resonance alignment." She reached out, her hand hovering over his side. The green-gold light intensified, pulsing softly. It felt warm, radiating not just light, but a palpable energy. Jax hesitated, then nodded. "All right, do your resonance thing." He didn't understand it, but if it helped. Lyra placed her hand gently on his ribs. Her touch was cool and smooth. The light radiating from her intensified, a soft, pulsing emerald gold flowing from her hand into his body. He felt it immediately, a strange tingling sensation beneath his skin, spreading outwards from where she touched him. It wasn't unpleasant, not exactly, but it was intensely alien. It felt like tiny currents of warmth flowing through his muscles and bone. His pain didn't vanish, but it dulled, the sharp edge taken off, replaced by a widespread ache. "The mend is initiated," she said, her voice soft, close. Her hand remained on his side, the light pulsing steadily. The metallic scent was stronger here, mixed with the familiar smell of his ship. The combination was disorienting, intimate. He looked at her, really looked. The shifting patterns beneath her skin, the depth of her dark eyes, the alien grace of her form. She had risked herself for him, used her strange abilities to protect him. And now she was trying to heal him with nothing but her touch and her internal light. The earlier absurdity of the claim nest felt distant, replaced by a profound sense of gratitude and a growing, unsettling awareness of her as a physical, sentient being utterly unlike anything he'd ever known. He reached out, tentatively, and placed his hand on her arm, the one she had marked him with days ago. Her light flared briefly, a surprised shimmer of pure white, then settled back into the emerald gold, but the pulse quickened slightly. She didn't pull away. His thumb brushed against her cool, smooth surface, feeling the faint, intricate patterns of her internal light pressing against the skin. "Lyra," he said, his voice low. "Thank you." She held his gaze, the light in her eyes deep and steady. "Mutual protection is inherent in the layering," she replied, her voice quiet, resonating in the small space. Her hand on his side tightened almost imperceptibly. His hand remained on her arm, a connection forged in danger and vulnerability. Trapped together, injured, their strange bond felt suddenly less like a cultural misunderstanding and more like a fundamental truth taking root. Days turned into cycles trapped in the hangar bay. The search team outside hadn't left, but they weren't actively trying to break in either. They were waiting for what Jax didn't know. Supplies were running low. The ship's life support recycled the air, but it was getting stale. Lyra continued her resonance healing on his ribs, and he had to admit the dull ache was fading faster than any bruise he'd ever had. Each session felt more intimate than the last. Her hand on his skin, the warm flow of her light into him, the silent intensity of her gaze. It blurred the lines between physical healing and something else entirely. Your bone structure shows accelerated cellular regeneration, she observed one cycle, her hand glowing a soft, healing green on his side. Human biology is adaptable, surprisingly so. Yeah, well, necessity is the mother of invention, Jack said dryly, watching the light flow beneath the skin. It was still surreal, seeing himself faintly illuminated from within by her light. Lyra tilted her head. Necessity is a catalyst for resonance alignment. It forces adaptation. Her dark eyes studied his face. Your emotional resonance is also shifting. Less jagged, more accepting. Jax felt a blush rise. He was accepting? He was just trying not to freak out about being trapped with an alien who claimed him because of a pillow. I'm just tired of fighting, he admitted quietly. And, thanks for the ribs. Seriously. Her green light pulsed warmly. Mutual care is fundamental to the layer bond. Right, the bond. He still struggled with the word. It felt too heavy, too permanent for this. What happens if they don't leave? We can't stay here forever. Lyra withdrew her hand, the green light fading. She stood and walked to the cockpit viewport, looking out at the sealed hangar door. They are waiting for reinforcement, or for us to weaken, to signal our presence. Signal our presence? Like our resonance? She turned back to him, her light a thoughtful blue. Precisely. Your fear, your hunger, your injury. These create a resonance signature that is detectable to their scanners. As you weaken, the signal strengthens. They are patient predators. Jax felt a chill. So they were literally waiting for him to break down. What about you? Can they sense your resonance? My core resonance is different, she said, her light swirling with complex patterns. It can be masked, but strong emotional states. Fear, pain, anger can create flares that breach dampening protocols, particularly when amplified by proximity to a strong human resonance. So me freaking out makes you easier to find? Jax felt a surge of guilt. He was putting her in danger just by being scared and hungry. Layered resonance is interconnected, she stated simply. Your vulnerability is my vulnerability. That hit him harder than any blow. His solitary life, his carefully constructed emotional walls, they weren't just his own anymore. They were tied to her, to this strange, unexpected bond. So I need to keep it together. Lyra nodded, her blue light steady. Resonance control is key, particularly the negative amplitudes. Negative amplitudes, he repeated, trying to process the alien terminology. You mean, don't panic? Essentially. A flicker of amusement seemed to play across her internal lights, a soft, warm shimmer of gold within the blue. It was the closest he'd seen to an emotional expression he could recognize. Easier said than done when you're starving in a tin can, waiting for slavers to bust down the door, he muttered. Lyra flowed over to him, sitting cross-legged nearby. Her blue light softened, radiating calm. Focus on positive amplitudes, on connection, on shared presence. She reached out, not touching him this time, but holding her hand a few inches away. The blue light pulsed gently, emanating a field of calming energy. Let our resonance align in anticipation, not fear. Jax hesitated, then reached out his own hand, mirroring hers. He didn't touch her, just held his palm facing hers, feeling the strange, warm pull of her energy, the low, soothing hum. He focused on the light, on the sense of her presence, trying to push away the gnawing fear and the emptiness in his stomach. It was difficult, forcing his chaotic human emotions into some semblance of order, but with her calm, steady resonance guiding him, he found a fragile peace. The fear didn't vanish, but it receded, replaced by a quiet determination and a profound sense of not being alone. The space between their hands felt charged, a silent conversation passing between them, a building of trust that transcended words. As the days wore on, the hunger became harder to ignore. Jax felt his resolve weakening, his resonance, as Lyra called it, becoming more erratic. He paced the small cargo hold, his frustration mounting. Lyra remained calm, but he saw the worry in the subtle shift of her light. "There has to be another way out," he said, stopping in front of the sealed door. "An emergency hatch? A vent leading somewhere else?" Lyra consulted the ship's schematics projected faintly onto a bulkhead by a device she wore on her wrist. Her light was a focus green. "There is a service tunnel access panel near the main engine core. It leads outside the station structure, but it is damaged, requires bypass of structural integrity lock. Can you do it?" "It requires focused energy channeling," she said. "Significant drain." "How significant?" Her green light flickered. "Depletion. Possible system failure." System failure. For her, that meant what? He remembered her talking about her bioluminescence. Was that her life energy? "No," he said immediately. "Too risky. There has to be another way." "Our options are limited," she stated, her voice quiet. "Their scan grid is constant now. Any significant movement inside will be detected." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "So we just wait here until we starve?" Lyra was silent. Her green light pulsed slowly, a heavy, resigned rhythm. Seeing her so quiet, so diminished, twisted something in his gut. She was willing to sacrifice herself to give them a chance. He couldn't let her do that. He thought about the risk, thought about the glowing warmth of her hand healing his ribs, thought about the strange, protective fierceness she had shown in the conduits. He thought about the claimed nest and the layered bond. Words that had been confusing and annoying, but now felt like a promise. "Okay," he said, making a decision. "We do it, the service tunnel. But you can serve your energy. I'll do everything I can first." Lyra looked at him, her dark eyes reflecting his resolve. Her green light brightened slightly, edged with gold. It felt like acceptance, or perhaps reluctant agreement. They found the access panel near the ship's humming engine core. It was fused shut, a mess of mangled metal and sparking wires. "Yeah, that's not opening with a wrench," Jack said, surveying the damage. Lyra stepped forward, her green light intensifying. "Stand back, human Jax. I will attempt energy channeling." "Hold on," Jack said, stopping her. "Let me try something first." He went back to the cargo hold and rummaged through his salvage, pulling out a volatile energy cell he'd been saving. It was unstable, dangerous, but it might generate enough focus heat to melt through the fused parts. Lyra watched him, her light now a mix of green and anxious crimson. "That source is unstable. High risk of uncontrolled discharge." "Yeah, I know," Jack said, carefully attaching a focusing nozzle to the cell. "But it might work. It's worth a shot before you drain yourself." He positioned the nozzle against the fused panel, aiming the beam. "All right, Lyra, stay back." He activated the cell. It hummed ominously, a wave of heat radiating outwards. A thin, piercing beam shot out, impacting the metal. Sparks flew, metal hissed and warped. He held it steady, ignoring the heat radiating back at him, the smell of ozone filling the air. He focused everything he had on keeping his hand steady, on melting through the panel. Sweat beaded on his forehead, stinging his eyes. He felt a presence behind him, a sudden surge of calm resonance washing over him. Lyra. She wasn't touching him, but her light flared, a powerful, steady indigo that seemed to wrap around him, bolstering his concentration, dampening the instability of the energy cell. It was like she was lending him her own focus, her own control. With a final shriek of tortured metal, the panel gave way. The beam cut through, leaving a jagged hole. Jax deactivated the cell, dropping it hastily. It clattered to the floor, still humming with residual energy. He stumbled back, coughing the acrid smoke. "You are efficient," Lyra said, her indigo light still strong, though now tinged with faint tremor. "But your resonance control is chaotic." Yeah, well, it worked, he wheezed, wiping his face. The pain in his side flared, but he ignored it. The tunnel lay open before them, dark and narrow, leading away from the ship. Let's go. Lyra nodded. Her light settled into a calm blue. She flowed through the jagged opening first. Jax followed, squeezing through the narrow passage. The tunnel was pitch black, the air even worse than inside the station. They moved slowly, Lyra's light the only guide. He could hear the faint sounds of the station around them, the distant echo of footsteps, the whine of scanners. They were getting closer to the edge of the structure, closer to, what? Open space? Another part of the station? Suddenly, Lyra stopped. Her blue light pulsed violently, shifting to a frantic, swirling pattern of red and black. Trap, she whispered, her voice tight with urgency. Energy net. Ahead. Jax froze. Energy net? Designed to catch things that radiated energy? Like a glowing alien woman? Or maybe just anything trying to escape. Can we go around? No. It spans the entire passage. And they are here, waiting. He heard it then. Faint sounds ahead. Footsteps. Voices. They'd anticipated this escape route. He cursed under his breath. They were cornered. The narrow tunnel offered no cover. Behind them was a melted panel, impassable quickly. Ahead, a trap and the people who set it. He raised his pistol, heart pounding. Lyra turned to face him in the narrow confines of the tunnel. Her light was a chaotic storm of crimson and black, reflecting the extreme danger. There is one option, she said, her voice strained. Extreme resonance overload. It will disrupt the net. But what? It will make my position highly visible, unmasking event. She would sacrifice her stealth, become a beacon. To break the trap, they would know exactly where she was. And probably where he was too. Can you do it? Safely? Her light pulsed, the storm of colors momentarily resolving into a flash of pure, burning white, a visual representation of intense energy. Safely is not the primary metric. Survival is. He looked at her, silhouetted by that internal storm. He saw the resolve in her posture, the acceptance of the risk. She was willing to pay the price of unmasking for him, for them, the bond, the layered nest. It wasn't just a concept to her. It was real. Okay, he said, voice steady despite the fear. Do it, but we go together. When that net goes down, we run. Don't hesitate. Lyra nodded, her dark eyes holding his. Her internal storm began to intensify, the colors swirling faster, growing brighter. The hum she emitted rose in pitch, vibrating the metal around them, a high-pitched whine building to an unbearable crescendo. The air crackled with energy. Jax felt a wave of pure power emanating from her, overwhelming and terrifying. He shielded his eyes against the blinding light building within her. There was a blinding flash, a deafening crack, and a violent shudder that ran through the station. Jax was thrown back against the wall of the tunnel, his ears ringing, eyes watering from the intense light. For a moment, everything was white. When his vision cleared, he saw the tunnel ahead. The air shimmered where the energy net had been, but it was gone. And Lyra, she was still standing, but her form was dim, her internal light reduced to a faint, flickering outline, barely visible in the residual glare. She swayed, weak. Go, she whispered, her voice thin. Now. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed her arm, pulling her forward. Her body felt unnaturally light, fragile. He supported her as they half ran, half stumbled through the now clear passage. The footsteps ahead were louder now, shouts echoing down the tunnel. They knew. They were coming. This way. Jax yelled, pulling her toward the junction, hoping it led somewhere, anywhere away from the approaching sound. He didn't know where they were going, only that they had to get away. Lyra stumbled, and he had to practically carry her. He could feel her light fading, her energy reserves depleted. He was supposed to protect the claimed subject. Now she was a vulnerable one, because of him, because she had broken the trap for him. The weight of that responsibility settled on him, heavy and urgent. They burst out of the tunnel into a large, open space, an old, abandoned hydroponics bay. It was filled with dead, tangled vegetation, the air thick with the smell of rot and stagnant water. There was cover, but no obvious exit. The sounds of pursuit were right behind them. In here, Jax dragged Lyra behind a mound of overgrown creepers. He pulled her down into the thick, dusty leaves, pressing himself against her, trying to shield her with his body. Her light was barely a whisper now, a faint outline against the darkness. Her form was still, silent, radiating only exhaustion. He could hear the searchers entering the hydroponics bay, their heavy boots crunching on the debris. Lights swept through the space. They were calling out, searching methodically. Jax held his breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. He could feel Lyra's faint, shallow breathing against his chest. He was acutely aware of the fragile life flickering within her. He had never felt this level of desperate protectiveness before. Not for anyone. A light beam swept close, illuminating the tangled vegetation, missing them by inches. Jax pressed Lyra closer, his arm wrapped tightly around her. He could feel the delicate structure of her bones beneath his touch. Her strange metallic scent was faint now, almost gone. He needed to get her somewhere safe. He needed to get them both out of this. "Stay quiet," he whispered against the top of her head, though he wasn't sure she could even hear him. He closed his eyes for a second, focusing not on the fear, but on the feel of her against him, the shared danger, the strange, unbreakable bond that had formed between them. He wouldn't let them take her. Not after she'd saved him. Not after. The layered nest. The searchers moved deeper into the bay, their voices receding slightly. This was their chance. Jax carefully pushed himself up, helping Lyra to her feet. She was weak, barely able to stand. He put his arm around her waist, supporting her weight. "Come on," he murmured. "Gotta find a way out." They moved slowly, silently, using the dense vegetation as cover. The air was thick and humid, smelling of decay. Lyra leaned heavily against him, her body cool against his side. He could feel the subtle vibration of her presence, even with her light so dim, a faint echo of the vibrant energy she usually radiated. He felt her shiver. "Cold," he whispered. She nodded faintly. Energy depletion affects thermal regulation. He pulled her closer, trying to lend her his own body heat. It felt inadequate. He needed to get her somewhere warm, somewhere safe. His ship. If only they could get back. But the hangar was surely swarming by now. They found a rusted maintenance door hidden behind a wall of tangled vines. It looked old, possibly unsecured. Jax carefully tried the handle. It was stiff, but it turned. He pulled the door open a crack, peering into the darkness beyond. Another service tunnel. Hope flickered. "Think this goes anywhere useful?" he asked Lyra softly. She lifted her head slightly, her dark eyes trying to pierce the gloom. Her faint light pulsed once, a weak, seeking rhythm. Energy signatures, faint. Older passage, not recently traversed. An untested route. Risky, but possibly their only chance. "Okay," he said, pulling the door open wider. "Let's try it." He helped Lyra through the opening, then slipped in after her, pulling the door shut behind them. The tunnel was dark, cold, and blessedly silent. They were alone again. Jax leaned back against the door, letting out a ragged breath. Lyra sagged against him, her head resting on his shoulder. Her light was barely visible now, a pale, ghostly outline. "You all right?" he asked, his voice rough with concern. She didn't reply, only shivered again. He could feel her radiating cold now, the chill of her energy depletion. He needed to get her somewhere safe, and fast. But where? They were deep inside a derelict station, pursued by unknown enemies, with a weakened alien relying entirely on him. He looked down at her, supporting her weight. Her strange, beautiful light was almost gone, replaced by a fragile vulnerability that was intensely human in its need. The claim nest and layer bond suddenly didn't feel like abstract alien concepts anymore. They felt like the tangled reality of their situation. Two disparate beings bound together by accident, danger, and a deepening, unspoken connection. He wrapped his arms more tightly around her, pulling her against his chest, offering what little warmth he could. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a protector. He was just Jax, a scavenger who wanted a quiet place to sleep, who now found himself holding a cold, fragile alien woman who had sacrificed her strength for him, and whose fading light felt like a part of his own had dimmed. The silence of the tunnel pressing on them, broken only by their quiet breathing and the distant echo of the searchers still in the hydroponics bay. He had to find a way out. For her, for the layered nest. The service tunnel wound through the station's skeletal structure, cold and silent. Lyra was a dead weight against him, her internal light flickering like a dying ember. He half carried, half dragged her, his own strength flagging, the ache in his ribs a constant reminder of his own vulnerability. The metallic scent that usually surrounded her was gone, replaced by the faint, acrid smell of decay. He kept checking her, whispering her name, praying for a response. Nothing, just a faint shiver that ran through her fragile form. He knew he was lost. The tunnels were a maze of identical metal passages. He had no map, no internal compass to guide him. All he had was a desperate need to find somewhere safe, somewhere warm, for her. He stumbled, falling to his knees, Lyra still cradled in his arms. He couldn't go on. Exhaustion, pain, and a rising tide of fear threatened to overwhelm him. He looked down at her pale, still form, the faint, almost invisible light within her threatening to vanish entirely. He failed. He couldn't protect her. Then a faint sound, a rhythmic thumping, distant but distinct. Not footsteps. Mechanical. He strained his ears. It sounded like a pulse engine? Hope surged through him, sharp and sudden. Could it be? He pushed himself up, Lyra still in his arms, and stumbled toward the sound, following the faint vibrations through the floor. The tunnel opened into a larger space, a small auxiliary hangar bay, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the station, and in it, a small, beat-up shuttle. Not his ship, but a ship. It was cold, dark, and silent, but the engine hum was definitely coming from it. Someone was here. Someone who hadn't arrived with the search party, or the shuttle would have been detected. A rogue, another scavenger, or maybe something else. He didn't care. It was a ship, a potential way out. He had to risk it. He staggered towards the shuttle, Lyra's weight heavy in his arms. He reached the base of the boarding ramp. It was sealed. No visible access panel. Just smooth, dark metal. Despair washed over him. So close. So damn close. He leaned against the shuttle's hull, letting Lyra slide gently to the ground beside him. He sank down next to her, collapsing against the cold metal. He was beaten. He looked at Lyra, her light barely a spark. He reached out, his hand trembling, and placed it gently on her chest, over where her internal light source should be strongest. Lyra, he whispered, don't go out on me. Not now. He felt a profound, aching sadness, a sense of loss for the vibrant, glowing alien who had disrupted his life and claimed his pillow. As his hand rested on her, he felt a faint vibration, not from her internal light, but from the hull of the shuttle. The engine pulse was louder here, and beneath his palm, on Lyra's chest, he felt a flicker, a faint warmth, a tiny, desperate spark of light. He leaned closer, pressing his ear against her chest. He could hear her faint, shallow breathing, and beneath it, a subtle resonance, barely audible but there. He looked at the shuttle's ramp again. Sealed. No panel. But Lyra's light, her resonance. He remembered her opening his ship's door. The door access code was fluid. It shifted for me. Could she do that with this shuttle? Even like this? He looked at Lyra, then at the ramp. He had to try. He carefully lifted her again, cradling her against him. He positioned her weak, unresponsive hand against the spot where an access panel should be. Lyra, he murmured, if you can hear me, if you have any energy left, please. The ramp. Open the ramp. He pressed her hand firmly against the cold metal. Nothing happened. His heart sank. It was hopeless. Then a faint tremor ran through her body. A tiny, almost imperceptible surge of light pulsed beneath her skin. A spark of blue. It flowed from her core, down her arm, into her hand pressed against the shuttle's hull. A soft click echoed in the quiet hangar. A thin seam of light appeared in the metal, then widened. The boarding ramp hissed downwards, revealing the dark interior of the shuttle. It worked. She did it. "Thank you," he whispered, relief flooding him. Thick and overwhelming. He carried her up the ramp and into the cramped cabin. He needed to get her somewhere safe, somewhere warm. The shuttle's cabin was cold, but it was better than the tunnels. He found a small bunk and gently laid her down. He covered her with a thin, rough blanket he found tucked away. Her light was still barely visible, just a faint blue outline now. He needed to see if the shuttle was functional. He stumbled into the cockpit. It was old, stripped down, but the console was active. Power was on. He ran a quick diagnostic. Engines, life support, and AV computer, all functional. Someone was keeping this thing ready to go. He saw a comm panel flickering. An incoming message? He hesitated, then activated it. A face appeared on the screen, a woman human, with sharp eyes and a weary expression. "Took you long enough," she said, her voice rough. "Thought they'd already pick your bones clean." Jack stared at her, stunned. Who are you?" "Name's Kaylin," she said. "You're on my shuttle. Got a message from a mutual acquaintance you might need a ride. Something about a glowing passenger." She glanced past him. "Is she, all right?" "Lyra." She had managed to send a message. Before or after she collapsed. "To whom?" "She's weak," Jack said, turning back to look at Lyra's still form on the bunk. "Used up all her energy getting us out of trap." Who sent the message?" Kaylin's expression softened slightly. "Let's just say, your passenger's allies. Friends who owe her. Get yourselves strapped in. We're leaving. Now." Jax didn't ask any more questions. He ran back to the cabin, strapped Lyra into the nearest seat, securing her carefully. He then buckled himself into the co-pilot's chair. The shuttle shuddered as the engine spooled up. Kaylin was already working controls. The hangar door rumbled open. "Hold on," Kaylin warned. "Might be a little bumpy." The shuttle shot out of the hangar bay like a stone from a slingshot. Jax was thrown back into his seat as Kaylin executed a series of sharp, gut-wrenching maneuvers, evading incoming fire he couldn't even see. Alarms blared in the cockpit. Jax glanced back at Lyra. Her light remained dim, but the faint blue outline was steady now. She was still with him. After what felt like an eternity of frantic dodging and weaving, the alarms quieted. Kaylin brought the shuttle into a steady flight path, heading away from the station. The silence felt deafening after the chaos. "All right," Kaylin said, wiping sweat from her brow. "That was close. They really wanted her, didn't they?" "They wanted her. And anyone with her," Jack said, looking back at Lyra. "Who are they?" "Company boys," Kaylin replied grimly. "Synth-Corp retrieval team. Heard rumors Lyra escaped one of their research facilities a while back. They've been hunting her ever since." Synth-Corp. He knew the name. Ruthless corporate slavers, specializing in bioassets. A cold dread settled in his stomach. Lyra wasn't just an exile. She was a fugitive, and he was now caught in the middle. He got up and went back to Lyra's side. She was still weak, but the faint blue light within her seemed a little stronger, more stable. He knelt beside her, taking her hand. It was still cool, but no longer radiating cold. "Lyra," he whispered, "can you hear me?" Her dark eyes fluttered open, focusing on him with effort. The blue light pulsed faintly. "Human Jax," she murmured, her voice weak but present. "Yeah, it's me." He squeezed her hand gently. "We're okay. We're off the station. On a shuttle, with a pilot Lyra apparently knows." She managed a faint nod. Her eyes drifted closed again, but her grip on his hand tightened slightly. He stayed there, holding her hand, watching the faint blue light pulse within her. The danger wasn't over. Synth-Corp knew he was with her now. His quiet, solitary life was definitely a thing of the past. But looking at Lyra, feeling the fragile life in her hand, the strange warmth spreading through him wasn't fear anymore. It was something else. Something warmer, stronger, and infinitely more complicated than he could have ever imagined when she first sat on his pillow. Kaylin got them to a safe system, a small, independent station at the edge of charted space, a known haven for fugitives and those lying low. It was a chaotic, bustling place, a stark contrast to the silent, derelict station they'd left behind. Lyra was still weak, her internal light subdued, but she was recovering. Kalen gave them a small, private module on the station, the cost presumably covered by Lyra's mysterious allies. Jack spent his days caring for her. He learned how to prepare the nutrient paste she could tolerate, how to help her move when her energy levels were critically low. He learned to read the subtle shifts in her light, understanding her moods and needs without a word being spoken. Her blue light meant calm or thoughtful. Green was focus or healing. Gold was comfort or acceptance. Crimson was danger or pain. And the rare, vibrant flares of other colors. Those were still mysteries but felt intensely significant. Her strength slowly returned. The metallic scent around her grew stronger, more pleasant to him. Her light became brighter, the internal patterns more complex, more vibrant. And with her returning health came the return of the claimed nest discussions. "Your resonance stabilization is complete," she stated one cycle, her light a clear, steady blue as she watched him repair a comm panel in their module. "The layered bond has endured external threat and internal depletion." "Yeah. Well, guess we're stuck with each other," Jack said, not looking at her, trying to keep his tone light. He was still trying to process everything that had happened, everything she was, a synth-corp fugitive, possessor of strange energy abilities, and his self-proclaimed nestmate. Lyra didn't reply immediately. When he finally glanced at her, her light was a warm, deep gold, radiating a calm certainty that made his stomach clench. "The bond is not a state of being stuck," she said softly. "It is a state of choosing proximity, of mutual support, of shared resonance." Choosing. Jax put down his tools. "I didn't exactly choose this, Lyra. You sat on my pillow and told me I was claimed. Then we got hunted across the station." Her gold light remained, unwavering. The initial layering was happenstance. The continuation, the return to shared space, that is choice. You did not abandon the nest. You did not sever the connection. He hadn't, even when she was weak, even when he could have left her in the tunnels. He hadn't. The thought hadn't even crossed his mind. He had carried her, protected her, brought her here. "Why? I couldn't leave you," he admitted, the words raw. "Not like that." Lyra's light brightened, a soft pulse running through the gold. Mutual protection. Fundamental truth of the layering. She flowed towards him, stopping just a foot away. The gold light intensified, radiating warmth. Her dark eyes were pools of liquid light, holding his gaze with an intensity that stole his breath. The initial nest was temporary, but the bond exists now, independent of location. It is carried. Between us. Carried. The word resonated deep within him. He had carried her through the tunnels. Now, he carried their connection. "So, what now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Her internal light began to shift, a slow, sensual swirl of gold and rose and deep, luminous violet. It was mesmerizing, intoxicating. It felt like a promise, a question, an invitation all at once. The air around her thickened, filled with that sweet, metallic scent that now felt inextricably linked to safety, to warmth, to her. "Now," she said, her voice a low hum that vibrated through him. "We reinforce the layering. We deepen the resonance." As she spoke, she reached out, her hand not quite touching his face, but hovering inches away. He felt the warmth radiating from her fingertips, the subtle energy field surrounding her, drawing him in. His heart hammered in his chest. This wasn't just about cultural bonding anymore. This was about something primal, something deeply physical and intensely emotional, simmering just beneath the surface. He felt himself leaning into her space, craving the touch she hadn't yet given him. He closed the distance, gently taking her hand and pressing his cheek against her palm. Her skin was cool and smooth, the faint internal light a soft glow against the skin. A shudder ran through him, a wave of sensation unlike anything he'd ever experienced. Her light flared, a brilliant, pulsating wave of gold and violet and rose that washed over him, through him, aligning with his own frantic heartbeat. It wasn't just light. It was emotion, energy, pure resonant connection. It felt like coming home to a place he never knew existed. The layered nest was no longer a place. It was them. Together, he pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her, burying his face in the crook of her neck. Her body felt firm, yet yielding against his. Her scent was overwhelming, intoxicating. He could feel the powerful, rhythmic pulse of her internal light against his skin, a silent, urgent language he finally understood. It spoke of trust, of vulnerability, of a deep, resonant need that mirrored his own. He tightened his embrace, pulling her flush against him. "Jax," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, her light intensifying, washing over him in waves of warm, vibrant color. "Lyra," he responded, his voice raw, his face pressed against her cool, smooth skin. There were no more words needed. The language was light, touch, resonance, and the desperate, overwhelming need to simply be closer, to merge their disparate presences into a single, undeniable truth. The world outside the module, the danger, the past, it all faded away, leaving only them, wrapped in her light, their resonances intertwined in the heart of their claimed nest. The intimacy was overwhelming, a merging of souls and bodies forged in danger and sealed with light, promising a depth of connection he spent a lifetime unknowingly searching for. The physical intimacy escalated quickly after that. Trapped in the small module on a station that was safe but still transient, with the threat of SynthCorp a constant shadow, their connection became a refuge, a world unto itself. Their bodies learned each other's language, his rough human edges, her fluid alien form, the strange, electric energy that crackled between them. Her internal light became a guide, a map of her arousal, her pleasure, intensifying, swirling, and flashing in breathtaking patterns that spoke more eloquently than any words. He learned to read the deep blues of anticipation, the vibrant greens of rising tension, the explosive bursts of white and gold at the peak of release. And she, in turn, seemed fascinated by the raw, unmediated signals of his human body, his quickening breath, the heat of his skin, the rhythm of his heart, the subtle tremors that spoke of pleasure or vulnerability. Their nights were a blur of tangled limbs, soft hums, intoxicating scents, and the relentless, beautiful dance of her light. It was raw, sensory, driven by a desperate need for connection in the face of uncertainty. There was an almost clinical curiosity in her initial exploration of his human form, quickly overtaken by a powerful, reciprocal desire. His body responded to her in ways he hadn't known were possible, attuned to her light, her energy, her unique alien presence. The resonance alignment wasn't just a concept. It was a palpable, physical reality that left him breathless and aching for more. "Your body is responsive," she murmured one night, her hand tracing the line of his jaw, her light a soft, contented gold. "The layering facilitates profound connection." "You have no idea," he whispered back, pressing a kiss to her palm, feeling the cool, smooth texture and the faint pulse of light. But the physical intimacy, while intense, didn't replace the slow burn of emotional vulnerability. It existed alongside it, amplifying the moments of shared quiet, the hesitant questions, the gradual peeling back of layers. They talked in the afterglow about their pasts. Lyra spoke, haltingly, about the SynthCorp facility, about being studied, categorized, stripped of her identity, and the desperate, brutal act of escape that had left her in exile. She spoke of her species, of the deep bonds of the layered nest, of the trauma being ripped away from everything that was sacred to her. Her light would dim when she spoke of the past, turning a somber, muted gray, reflecting a deep, abiding pain. Jax listened, offering quiet comfort, a steady presence in the face of her darkness. He didn't try to fix it, just held her close, his own light, his own presence, offering a different kind of resonance. Steady, reliable, safe. He, in turn, shared fragments of his own story. The reasons he lived on the fringes, the losses that taught him to rely only on himself, the scars on his heart that mirrored the physical ones on his body. He spoke of the emptiness of solitary life, the gnawing loneliness he hadn't realized how deeply he felt until she crashed into his world. His words were clumsy, hesitant, exposing vulnerabilities he hadn't shown anyone in years. Lyra listened intently, her light shifting to a warm, empathetic gold or a calm, steady blue, absorbing his confessions not just with her ears, but with her entire being, her presence a silent, unwavering acceptance. "You carried much darkness. Human Jax," she said after one such conversation, her hand resting on his chest, over his heart. Her light pulsed softly, a mix of gold and a deep, compassionate violet. The layered nest. It shares the burden, distributes the resonance. He covered her hand with his own. "It helps," he admitted, the simple words feeling profoundly true. Being with her, sharing their space, their bodies, their pasts, it eased a weight he hadn't known he was carrying. Their days settled into a rhythm. Jax would do odd jobs around the station for credits, leveraging his scavenging skills. Lyra would often accompany him, her presence a silent comfort and a subtle deterrent. She could sense things he couldn't, shifts in energy, hidden intentions. Her light would pulse crimson near individuals with aggressive resonance, or a wary yellow around those who radiated deceit. He came to trust her instincts implicitly. One cycle. While exploring a newly arrived cargo freighter looking for salvage opportunities, Lyra's light flared violently crimson. Not just a warning, but sharp, panic pulses that radiated extreme fear. "They are here," she whispered, her voice tight with terror. "SynCorp, on this station." "Scanning." Jax froze. "SynCorp, here." They hadn't given up. His blood ran cold. He looked at Lyra, seeing the raw terror in her eyes, the frantic, chaotic pulsing of her light. This was the source of her deep trauma, the enemy that had hunted her across the stars. "We need to go," he said, grabbing her arm. "Now." They raced back through the station's crowded corridors, dodging confused spacers and traders. Lyra's fear resonance was almost visible now, bleeding outwards, a chaotic wave that he'd feel pressing in on him. It was amplifying his own fear, making him clumsy, panicky. He remembered her words, "Your vulnerability is my vulnerability," and vice versa. His fear was hindering her ability to control her resonance, making them both more detectable. "Lyra, calm down," he urged, squeezing her arm. "Breathe. You're giving off. You're making us obvious." She tried. He could see the effort, the flicker of her light trying to stabilize, but the terror was too deep. It overwhelmed her control. They rounded a corner and ran straight into a pair of SynCorp retrievers. They were human, wearing the same dark, reinforced suits as a team on the station, their faces cold and hard. Their eyes locked onto Lyra's radiating fear. Target acquired. One of them set into a wrist-mounted comm, fugitive located. Primary subject resonance confirmed. Jax didn't hesitate. He shoved Lyra behind him and drew the energy pistol he now kept holstered at his hip. "Get back!" he yelled, aiming the weapon. The retrievers raised their own disruptor rifles. "Stand down. Civilian," one of them ordered. "Deliver the asset and you will not be harmed." "She's not an asset." Jack snarled. Lyra huddled behind him, trembling, her light a blinding, frantic storm of crimson. "He is interfering with retrieval protocol," the other retriever said. "Secondary target authorized." They fired. The disruptor bolts ripped through the air. Jax dove to the side, pulling Lyra with him. The shots impacted the wall behind them, melting the metal with a searing flash. He fired back, his energy pistol less powerful but accurate. One shot grazed the retriever's arm, making him grunt in pain. "Eliminate the secondary," the first retriever yelled. More shots. Jax felt a searing pain in his leg. He cried out, stumbling, falling to the ground. Lyra cried out too, a sound like tearing metal. Her light pulsed violently, a desperate, agonized scream of color. "Go!" Jax yelled at her, clutching his leg. "Lyra, run." She didn't run. Instead, she flowed around him, placing herself between him and the retrievers. Her form solidified, her internal light blazing with a fierce, incandescent white, edged with crimson. It wasn't fear anymore. It was raw, burning fury. A wave of pure energy radiated from her, pushing outwards, making the air hum and crackle. The retrievers flinched back, shielding their eyes against the blinding light. "Energy spike! Unmasking event!" One of them shouted. "Contain the asset!" Lyra let out a sound, not words, but a high-pitched resonant cry that vibrated the station structure. The light radiating from her intensified, becoming a focused beam directed at the retrievers. They staggered back, their disruptor rifles sparking and malfunctioning under the energy onslaught. It was too much, too powerful. Jax watched, amazed and terrified, as Lyra unleashed her full power, a force of nature contained in her delicate form. But he saw the cost. Her light began to flicker, the blinding white interspersed with dark patches, like a dying star. She was burning herself out. "Lyra, stop!" he yelled, trying to push himself towards her, ignoring the pain in his leg. "You'll kill yourself." She didn't seem to hear him. Her focus was entirely on the retrievers, her resonant energy tearing at their shields, their weapons. One retriever collapsed, his suit smoking. The other staggered back, yelling into his comm, "Acid is unstable. Extreme energy output. Requesting backup. Immediate. Backup. More synth-corp." They had to get out. With a final, desperate surge, Lyra unleashed a wave of energy that threw the remaining retriever back against the wall, knocking him unconscious. The air smelled of ozone and burning metal. Lyra sagged, her light collapsing inwards, leaving her form dark and still. "Lyra!" Jax crawled toward her, dragging his injured leg. He reached her side. Her form was cool, unresponsive. Her light was gone, utterly gone. "No!" he whispered, cradling her head in his lap. "No, no, no." He looked around frantically. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. The backup was coming. He was injured, weapon damaged, and the only being who could protect him was gone. He felt a wave of cold despair wash over him, deeper and more profound than any fear. He had lost her, the vibrant, glowing alien who had shown him what it meant to be claimed, to be bonded, to be part of a layered nest. He had found something precious in the darkness of the derelict station, and now it was ripped away. He looked at the spot on her chest where her light should be. He placed his hand there, willing it to return, willing the warmth, the light, the life back into her. Nothing. Just the cold, smooth surface of her skin. Footsteps were pounding down the corridor. Closer now. He couldn't move her. He couldn't fight them off. This was it. They had caught them. Then a tiny, almost imperceptible warmth beneath his hand. A faint, hesitant flicker against his palm. A pinprick of light deep within Lyra's core. It was incredibly faint, almost invisible, but it was there. Blue. A faint, fragile blue. She wasn't gone. Not entirely. Anger, hot and pure, surged through him, eclipsing the despair. They did this. SynthCorp. They had taken her light, almost taken her life, and they were coming back for her. He looked down at Lyra's still form, at the tiny spark of blue light flickering within her. He wouldn't let them take her. Not now. Not ever. His hand tightened into a fist. His pain was still there, but it was fuel now. His fear was still there, but it was transmuted into savage resolve. He was Jax, scavenger, rogue, claimed nestmate, and they had just messed with his nest. He pushed himself up, gritting his teeth against the pain in his leg. He retrieved his damaged pistol. It might get one more shot off. He saw the first SynthCorp retrieval team rounding the corner, rifles raised. He raised his pistol, his hand steady, his gaze fixed on them. He might go down, but he would make them pay. He would protect the layered nest, even if it cost him everything. The faint blue light within Lyra pulsed once, a silent, fragile affirmation in the face of the approaching storm. The SynthCorp team advanced cautiously, wary after the energy surge that had taken down two of their men. Jack stood over Lyra's still form, pistol raised, favoring his injured leg. His fear had sharpened into a cold, focused rage. He was a cornered animal, and he would fight for his territory. "Last chance, civilian," the lead retriever warned, his voice amplified by his helmet speaker. "Move away from the asset." "Go to hell." Jack spat back. He fired. The shot went wide, the pistol barely functional. The retrievers didn't hesitate this time. Disruptor bolts screamed towards him. He threw himself to the side, pain exploding in his leg. He rolled, desperately trying to reach a discarded piece of heavy plating for cover. He felt a searing pain across his back as a bolt grazed him. He squeezed behind the plating, gasping, tasting blood. The retrievers advanced, confident they had him pinned. He had one shot left, maybe less. He was finished. Then a sound, not from the retrievers. A faint hum, growing rapidly louder. The sound of a starship engine, close by, too close for a station hangar. A section of the station wall above the corridor exploded inwards. Not a disruptor bolt, but a heavy energy cannon blast. Dust and debris rained down through the gaping hole in the wall. Jack saw it. Kalen's shuttle, hovering just outside the station structure, its forward cannon still glowing from the blast. Thought you might need a pickup? Kalen's voice crackled over a newly opened comm link on Jax's wrist, the one she'd given him. The Synth Corp retrievers were stunned, momentarily exposed. Jax didn't waste a chance. He scrambled back towards Lyra, ignoring the pain. He had to get her to the pickup point. "Lyra," he whispered, gently shaking her. "Wake up. Kalen's here. We're leaving." Her faint blue light pulsed weakly, but her eyes remained closed. She was too depleted. He had to carry her. He scooped her up as carefully as he could, gritting his teeth against the agony in his leg and back. She was light, fragile in his arms. He turned towards a hole in the wall, the dust clearing enough to show the open cargo ramp of Kalen's shuttle hanging in the air like a lifeline. The remaining retrievers recovered, raising their weapons again. "Stop him," they yelled, firing. Jax ran. Not fast, a stumbling, desperate hobble, shielding Lyra with his body. Disruptor bolts impacted the floor around him, sending up sparks. One hit the plating he'd just used for cover, vaporizing it. He reached the edge of the hole, the shuttle ramp just a few feet away. He could see Kalen in the rampway, gesturing urgently. He launched himself across the gap, landing hard on the metal ramp. He stumbled, almost falling, but Kalen grabbed his arm, pulling him on board. They were in. The ramp hissed shut behind them. Kalen immediately lifted the shuttle away from the station wall. Through the viewport, Jack saw the Synth-Corp retrievers fanning out from the hole. Too late. He sank to the deck, still cradling Lyra. The pain was blinding now, his clothes torn and bleeding. But they were safe. They were on the shuttle. Together. "You crazy son of A." Kalen started, then saw the state of him and Lyra. "All right, deck's clear back here. Get to the medical bay. Fast." He managed to carry Lyra to the small, Spartan medical bay. He gently laid her on the bio bed. Her blue light was still faint, but steady. She used up all her energy taking down those guys. Jax explained to Kalen, his voice hoarse. "She needs something. Fuel. Energy." Kalen examined Lyra, her expression serious. Her energy readings are critically low, like 0.01%. "I've got Stim's basic medkit, but nothing that generates internal light fuel, whatever her species uses. Her people," Jax said, his voice gaining strength despite his injuries. "She has allies, friends who owe her, on that safe station. Can you get us back there?" Kalen looked at him, then at Lyra. "Synth-Corp knows she's with you now. Going back to the last known friendly port is risky. They'll be watching." "They'll be watching everywhere," Jax countered. "That station is our best chance. Her allies know how to help her. They owe her, just like you owe her, just like I owe her." He met Kalen's gaze, his eyes hard with determination. "Get us back. Fast." Kalen held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, scavenger. Fast it is." She left the med bay to set course. Jax turned back to Lyra, taking her hand again. The faint blue light pulsed beneath his touch. He was injured, exhausted, and now tangled in a galactic manhunt. His old life was irrevocably gone. But looking at the fragile light in Lyra, at the quiet strength he knew lay beneath, he felt a sense of purpose he'd never had before. Protect her. Keep her safe. The layered nest. It wasn't just a claim anymore. It was a mission. Back on the safe station, Lyra's allies were waiting. They weren't many, a small group of her own species. living discreetly on the station. Exiles like her, or perhaps just sympathizers. They greeted her with quiet reverence and immediate concern, their own internal lights radiating distress and relief. They knew about her energy depletion, about SynthCorp. They knew how to help. They took Lyra to a secluded chamber, a space filled with strange, humming crystal formations and soft, pulsing lights. Jax wasn't allowed inside initially, only watching through a shielded viewport as they ministered to her, connecting her to the crystals, their own lights dimming as they seemingly transferred energy to her. He sat outside, patched up by Kalen, the throbbing in his leg, and back a dull ache compared to the anxiety in his chest. Kalen stayed with him for a while, offering silent support. "She's strong. Scavenger," Kalen said, nodding toward the viewport. "She'll pull through. She always does." "She almost didn't this time," Jax said, watching the faint blue light within Lyra slowly brighten under the crystal's influence. "Yeah. Well, you were there this time," Kalen replied, her gaze softening. "Seems that layered nest thing actually means something, even to her kind." She clapped him on the shoulder. "All right, I've got to make this shuttle disappear. Got some friends on the station who owe me. You stay put. Rest up." She gave him a small, rare smile before leaving. He was alone again, but not truly. He watched Lyra through the viewport, the blue light growing stronger, steadier. After hours, the other aliens emerged, looking weary but relieved. They nodded to Jax, their lights expressing gratitude, before leaving the chamber. He was finally allowed inside. The chamber was quiet, the crystals humming softly. Lyra lay on the bio bed, no longer connected to crystals. Her internal light was brighter now, a clear, steady blue. Her eyes were open, watching him as he approached. He knelt beside the bed, taking her hand. It was warm this time, radiating a gentle energy. "Hey," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Human Jax," she replied, her voice soft, stronger than before. Her blue light pulsed warmly. "You returned. You carried the nest." He squeezed her hand. "Always. You saved my life. I wasn't about to leave you." Her light shifted, a slow, deliberate bloom of warm gold spreading outwards from her core. "Mutual protection," she murmured. "The layered bond endures all threats." He leaned his head against her hand, feeling the warmth, the light, the undeniable presence of her life. "Yeah," he said, voice muffled. "It does." They stayed on the station for a while longer, Lyra fully recovering her strength. Her light returned to its vibrant spectrum, no longer dimmed by fear or exhaustion. They found a new module, larger this time, establishing their layered nest on solid ground. SynthCorp was still out there, a threat that wouldn't vanish. But here, among Lyra's allies, they had a measure of safety, a network of support. The claimed nest that had started as a strange cultural misunderstanding had become something profound, something earned through shared danger, vulnerability, and mutual rescue. It wasn't just a physical space, but the emotional space they inhabited together, a bond woven from light and trust and raw, human and alien need. One cycle. Sitting together on a comfortable, salvage couch in their new module, Lyra rested her head on his shoulder, her light a soft, contented gold. "The original nest," she said quietly, "was temporary. This is rooted." He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. He looked around the module, simple, functional, but filled with their presence, their combined resonance. It wasn't much, but it was theirs, their haven, their layered nest. "Yeah," he agreed, resting his cheek against the top of her head, feeling the gentle hum of her presence, seeing the soft glow of her light bathing the room in warmth. Rooted. The threat remained. The universe was still a dangerous place, but they would face it together. Not as scavenger and fugitive, but as claimed nestmates, two disparate souls bound by an improbable accident and an undeniable love, ready to build their new beginning, one shared breath, one shared moment, one shared light-filled space at a time. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs, a blank canvas waiting to be filled with the vibrant, complex resonance of their shared existence. And in the quiet of their module, surrounded by her soft, warm light, He finally understood that being claimed wasn't about possession. It was about belonging, and he belonged with her.